If you've ever watched someone talk a beautiful game but never walk the walk, or if you're curious about the difference between wisdom and embodiment, between being a knower versus a doer, this confession explores why self-trust is the start of embodiment, and why nothing changes on a cellular level through thinking, only through doing the hard, scary thing.
Okay, hey, this is Francisca, and this is my mid-crisis life, and today is Crisis Confessionals. So the truth of the matter is that I really don't want to be here right now. I really can't be bothered to show up. I just don't feel like I have the energy, but I'm here anyway, and I'm showing up anyway, and I'm doing it anyway. I think just, the loss of my friend has really kind of taken its toll on me. And in all honesty, I'm not really sure why. It's definitely something about me and about some unresolved shit for me, and it's something to ponder on for sure, but I don't think today's the day to do it. So yeah, anybody that watched the other video about kind of going back into the lion's den and being around people who kind of enabled a lot of the abuse that I experienced in my previous relationship, a lot of like the control and the coercion and the gaslighting and all that shit, they were there, and it was a really big thing for me to go back and feel really unsafe. So I thought, yeah, I would talk about what happened when I went there. Actually, to be honest, I would say the whole experience was quite vindicating. So to hear people talk differently about my ex after, 4 years or whatever of not being in that relationship, 5 years of not being in that relationship, yeah, it actually felt quite vindicating, for one of his friends who he introduced to the group to say to me that our friend that passed away made some comment about, I thought you were going to be a dickhead because this person had introduced you to us, but actually you're quite a nice guy. Like, it's like, all right, yeah, okay. So people did see, they did know, like for, one of my other friends, when some drunk uncle or cousin or whatever in the family was saying, oh yeah, that guy, he's a top guy, he's such a good guy. And she's like, what, so-and-so? No, he's not. No, he's not. Like, I was just like, oh, okay. So people kind of can see things for what it is, like being called by everybody there that I used to spend time with, like, no, this is our good friend, this is an old friend of ours that we love, that we don't get to see so much anymore. Again, it was kind of like really quite vindicating is the only word that I can really describe. And then I think also kind of like the way that my ex interacted with me was quite interesting. He wanted to talk a lot about apologizing for his behavior. He wanted to talk about how much he missed my kids and how much he still loves them. He wanted to talk about, the mistakes that he made in parenting my children. He wanted to pull my sons aside and have that conversation with them and apologize for how he was and the things that he did, like even just like the way his hand just slightly lingered, and the kind of lingering looks that there were, and all the compliments and all of that sort of stuff. I was just like, okay, cool. Well, interesting, right? Interesting that this is where you're at and this is how you want to use your time. And like, honestly, I'm not saying, haha, I win. Like, I don't care about any of that, but I just found it really interesting. And I was grateful for sure for that level of acknowledgement, but it was just interesting to watch because it's not something that I was ever afforded while we were together from him or from anybody else that was looking at that situation from the outside in, right? And I think it was just really interesting for there to be kind of like this finality, like this kind of like, I'm finally being seen for the truth of what this situation was and how harmful and how abusive this relationship was while I was in it, And I think also it was really interesting for me to kind of see how much I'd grown, right, in comparison to who I was within that relationship, that I had no kind of real emotional charge other than compassion when he was talking to me about these things. And then also like that there was like no need for me to fall back into those patterns of like trying to, yeah, someone's calling my son because for some reason his Snapchat's on my phone. I don't know. Yeah, like falling back into those old patterns. And one of the conversations that I had really proved that. So my ex is a very wise individual. Like he's very, very wise. He talks a good game. And I don't think it comes from like a grandiose place. I don't think it comes from like falsities or some fugazi in terms of his character. I think he really truly does believe the things that he says, and he really has thought about it, and he really does have a lot of wisdom. And it was really interesting that watching him talk and having conversations with him about different things, I could see again, like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, this guy really does have a lot of wisdom. And when I say that I didn't fall back into those same kind of patterns of behavior, those same roles, I mean in the sense of like, I wasn't then trying to prove myself within those conversations. I wasn't trying to prove that I was good enough, that I also got it, that like, yeah, but listen to me be really, really smart and wise as well, yeah? And it's like, that behavior all came out of like this really kind of like coercive, controlling relationship that I was in, and all of this kind of like psychological warfare that there was in the relationship, and all the kind of like undermining and the confusion that got created in my mind about like, I don't know, like, should I feel like this? Should I be offended about these things? Like, because he keeps on saying that I shouldn't be offended, like, and he keeps on having a logical rationale for absolutely everything. And it's like all of this kind of like gaslighting behavior that really like seeks to kind of like corrode somebody's sense of like personal autonomy, like that they are meaningful, that their thoughts are meaningful, that they're valuable, that the things that they say are valuable, that the needs they have are valuable, the feelings they feel are valuable, you know, like, and my desperation to also be valuable within these conversations where he projects this kind of like really old man, old wise man persona just wasn't there, right? And anyway, this whole thing and watching him from a completely different stance got me to thinking about this idea of like the difference between wisdom and embodiment, and how there's like this real differentiation, right? This real polarization that people maybe don't see when people sound wise and the things that they are saying are wise, but maybe struggle to actually embody that wisdom. So this week, I've really been trying to get back into like a healthy routine. I've really been trying to like exercise like I usually do. Well, like I try to usually do, and, you know, journal and, you know, do the gratitude thing and read more than sit watching Netflix. And it's really been actually quite a difficult thing for me to do this week, right? And it's really interesting because I had a really similar conversation with my youngest son. So he went for this training with an academy, and he came out of the first day really feeling disheartened, like really feeling like, oh, I did not do my best there. You know, these kids were older than him, but he's like, they're bigger than me, they're faster than me, they've got way more skills than me, and I just couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. And I'm always saying to my son, you know, look, if you want to be a professional athlete and you want to be an elite athlete, then yeah, of course you need to train with a team, you need to do this and the other. But there are some things that you can do outside of that that are very small, but are really going to enhance your opportunity, right? Something as little as half an hour of stretching, half an hour of exercise on a daily basis will give you the extra speed and the extra agility and the extra strength, right? And the extra physicality to feel more confident when you're going up against these people. You may still not be able to beat a 17-year-old in a foot race, right? But at least you're not going to feel completely inadequate, right? Because your body is going to be used to doing those sorts of things, right? And he was saying to me, because I was saying to him, what is it? What is it? Like, I honestly kind of get the impression that you're just a bit lazy, babe. Like, and that's my honest assessment watching you as your mom. But please tell me, like, what is it? He said to me, it's just really hard to start. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. 85% of the battle is just showing up, right? It's just showing up. And what I was explaining to him is, you know, I feel the same way. Yeah, I'm in this lull at the moment where doing anything, just starting to do anything feels really, really, really hard. But I said, it's a really simple thing. Yeah. It's just a choice. You can complicate it and you can make it about all of these different things and whatever else. But really, simplistically, when it comes down to it, it's just a choice. You just make that choice. I'm going to do it. I say I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make that choice. And I was explaining to him that, you know what? It's really simple. You are what you do. You're not what you say you do. You're not who you want to be. You are what you do. So if you exercise, then you're a healthy person. If you talk a lot about exercising and plan to exercise and have all of this like knowledge and wisdom about exercising, but you don't actually do it, you're not a person who exercises. It doesn't matter how much information you have about it. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have about it. You know, like if you write, you're an author. But if you don't actually ever put pen to paper and you procrastinate, then you can't really call yourself that, right? You can't call yourself a writer. If you train, then you're elite. Simple as that, right? And the reason why I'm telling you this is because looking at my ex, yeah, he had so much wisdom. to the point where it was a little bit supercilious, to the point where it was massively sanctimonious in our relationship, yeah? Because I was always being told about how I could be a better person. And actually, it was really helpful because it really actually made me confront some of the things that I do that are not healthy, right? And it really did make me think about things from an even wider perspective because I was so desperate to be loved by this person that I wanted to change and be better and all the rest of it, right? So he had so much wisdom, and he still does, yeah? But he could never walk the walk, right? And I just think why? Why is that? Why do some people do the things they preach and other people just can't really like seem to do that? Can't really seem to just walk the walk instead of talking the talk. And I think it's something about like doing the hard thing, yeah? It's about being the knower of things versus like the doer of things, yeah? One person lives in that self-concept, you know, who they want to be, who they feel they are, what they want to achieve, right? And the other lives in self-trust. So it's like who they choose to be, right? And the reason why I say it's about self-trust, yeah, is that self-trust is the start of embodiment, right? Doing something different, showing up in a different way, right? The very first time is really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. And it's so much easier to stay in what is familiar, even if what is familiar is harmful to you, you know, because it's just easier to make excuses, right? To make those excuses and masquerade those excuses as logic, as reasoning, as rationale, you know, like I'm not quite ready yet, you know, I need to wait until I'm ready to do these things. Or like, you know, I'm just protecting my peace right now. That's what I need to do right now. I just need to protect my peace. Or like, you know, I'm just going with the flow. I'm just going with the flow of things. Like they're just all ways of saying, yeah, literally ran out of space on my phone. Yeah, these are all ways like of just saying basically I'm scared, that I fear the unknown, that I fear taking a step into something that I don't know how it's going to end up, you know, that I fear the possibility of failure, that I fear even the possibility of success, you know, because that's something that scares people as well. And, you know, there was this like Insta post that I read the other day when I was like deep in a rabbit hole of procrastination because I didn't want to step into something that feels scary, like coming and doing this on a regular basis. And it basically said like, shout out to all those creators who show up when their life is like, I can't remember like exactly what it said, but you know, like when their life is on fire, when their relationship is crumbling, when there's like hardships all around them and they show up anyway because people don't see what's going on outside of these videos, outside of this like one aspect of my life, right? And it has taken a lot for me to stand here today. I've been doing all sorts of stuff. I've been procrastinating hardcore. I've read like entire bodies of work just to avoid doing this because the thing is it feels awful. It feels scary in my body. My body is trying to run away, right, from something that feels uncomfortable, of this like visceral discomfort that there is, right? And today I showed up, I don't know, maybe I showed up because you know, I'm just like a really high achiever, or like I'm too hard on myself, or I just can't, you know, let things go, or I need the adoration of like the, you know, whole 10 people that watch my videos. Yeah. But the thing is like all of those things, even if they are motivating my behavior, they're all still fear-based. You know, it's a lack of love, a lack of attention, a lack of acceptance, a lack of meaning, all of those sorts of things, right? But even if the fear is the thing that's motivating me, the thing is it's still fearful, right? And my body is still in fear of something. And I think the thing is that the reason why I show up now more consistently than I ever have done before, despite the fact that like there's all of this fear and then all of this fear in my body and all of these feelings of discomfort and all of this like unknown, and I can talk a big game, but if I don't actually do the fucking thing, right, then I'm not that person. I'm just the person that talks about the thing, right? I think the reason why I can do that now is because I have trained myself to be comfortable in that discomfort. And that doesn't mean I'm completely comfortable, right? But I've trained myself to be able to manage my nervous system, to be able to manage my bodily functions, to be able to manage my mind and that feeling of fear, even in discomfort, because I understand that it is only in discomfort that we grow, you know? I'm learning through every single time that I show up to withstand that emotional chaos that comes with doing the hard stuff, with doing the scary stuff, because it's only through that do I learn. It's only through that do I change. It's only through that do I embody new versions of myself and step into new versions of myself, right? It's only through doing that that I like evolve, because in the doing, that's where the changes happen, not in the thinking. You can think about shit till the cows come home, but if you don't actually do it, then on a cellular level, nothing's going to change, you know? So yeah, I think that's it. Something that I'm grateful for. You know what? I'm really grateful actually that I've spent this time stepping into the unknown, stepping into the discomfort, stepping into the fear. Um, and that's not easy to do. And it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of wherewithal, and it comes with a lot of pain, right? But I'm glad that I've spent the time doing that, because actually going back into that situation, it felt completely different. Watching my ex from a completely different perspective, from a completely different viewpoint, with a completely different heart and a completely different mind and a completely different cell makeup was, yeah, really vindicating for me. Um, and there's no way that I would have embodied that if I hadn't stepped into the embodiment of all of those things in between. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm really grateful also that I have nothing but compassion for my ex. Like, I don't feel upset or angry. Like, I feel upset and angry about the behaviors and the things that happened. And more than anything, the things that I allowed to happen to myself in that relationship. But I don't hold any hate in my heart for him. He's just a person, like, fucking up and, going through his journey in life. That's it, right? So yeah, that's it. But I think come back for Monday Mindset. We're going to talk a little bit more about kind of that idea of all the psychology behind kind of knowing versus doing, of wisdom versus embodiment, and I guess intellectualize it a little bit. Why not? Yeah. Even though I've just said that that's a worthless tool, but it's not, because we need to understand why we're doing what we're doing so that we can step into it with a little bit more confidence. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm so proud of myself that I actually finally got around to doing this. So yeah, but that is it for now. That's it.
Self-trust is the foundation of embodiment. Training yourself to be comfortable in discomfort so you can do the thing your body is trying to run from. Drop a comment about your own knower versus doer patterns, and come back for Monday Mindset, where we're going to explore the psychology behind why some people embody wisdom while others just collect it.